So with further ado, here's the PCI compromising controls and compromising security talk.
All right, it's before noon, so good morning. Thanks for coming out. My name's Jack Daniel, for those that don't know me. For those that do, you may be wondering where the sock puppets are. Last time I saw them, they were drunk on the beach at B-Side, so this is not one of my sock puppet talks. So, PCI at DefCon. What the hell has the world come to? It's noon on Sunday at DefCon, and people are interested in this, and I don't think I have to read this. This is changing the security industry. Those of us that care about security, those of us that like to play with stuff, this compliance thing is getting into everything we do. And PCI is the poster child for it. It's global. It has a significant impact on a lot of things. And so you can extrapolate this to HIPAA, Sarbanes-Oxley, and different forms, but we're going to pick on PCI because it's fun.
And Nevada state law.
But still, it is PCI at DefCon, and it does seem like a sign of the end times, 6 horsemen of the apocalypse here. Actually 7, but we'll get to that in a moment. Who are we? James Arlen, Mercurial, I'm sure most of you know him. Anton, Chuvakin. Dr. Chuvakin was not able to join us in person, but his book's here. Anytime you think Anton should comment, just say, buy my book. It's actually a good book, but he's been involved in this since the beginning. Joshua Corman, me, Alex Hutton, Martin McKeay, and Mr. David Shackleford. So, usual disclaimers. We don't speak for our employers, clients, customers, spouses, siblings, or offspring. My dog will back me up, but that's because she gets truck rides and that's it. Opinions are our own. Facts are as we see them. We aren't lawyers, etc. And should anyone on the panel be a QSA, they are not your QSA.
Maybe not.
And I would actually amend that if there's a QSA or two on the panel, they might be your QSA, at least for a few of you. So, discussions. These typically deteriorate into cliches. Any discussion, somebody inevitably says, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I have one word for that. Don't make me say, much less show tub girl. So if this becomes a slugfest, I'm going to moderate this, but I'm going to be the salt because we do have some people with different opinions. So here we go. This started with, it's going on, but Josh Corman made some comments that lit some people up. And we've had an ongoing discussion that's coming to almost a year. And the standard questions are, is it PCI or security? Is it really versus security? At some levels, PCI actually hampers security for the advanced. PCI also advances security for the people that aren't doing what they should be in the first place. I mean, I work for a firewall vendor. There are people that have rudimentary things because they're required to. But there are also there's the other end of that, and we have pretty pictures to point to that. And it has an impact on all of us. It has an impact on what it costs to use your credit card. It has an impact on what it costs to buy things somewhere where they have to be PCI compliant. It has an impact on whether or not you have fraud charges on your card. So there's the obligatory first boring bell curve slide, and then there's Mr. Corman.
Okay, so this thing basically started when Chris Hoff and I were doing a bunch of roundtables with CISOs, and we were doing them for 2 days on virtualization as a disruptive technology, cloud computing as a disruptive technology, deed and reperimeterization, mobility, and we're basically showing how traditional security architectures were ill-suited for a rapidly changing compute environment. We weren't even talking about bad guys. And we kind of did a tabula rasa project and drew on the whiteboard, if you could start over, what security controls would you keep, which ones would you toss? We just carry behind this comet trail of dead technologies that do a really, really bad job. And what would it look like? So at the end of the day, someone raised their hand and said, oh my God, I don't need to buy that anymore. I don't need to buy that anymore. And some other guy stood up in the back room and said, but damn it, PCI still makes me buy that crap. So the next morning, after lots of caffeine, I think 2 Hoppuccinos, I said, PCI is the devil, and I got a standing ovation from like 200 CISOs. And it was really a joke, right? But when Anton and Martin heard it, they wanted to exorcise the demons, and we started a pretty adult, informed, and clueful debate, because people basically hate PCI for a visceral reason, or they love PCI and they're fanboy and they write books about it.
Or just to be clear, by adult, he does not mean pantsless.
That's right.
We were miles and miles apart, and some of us don't like PCI but make a living at it.
That's true. So the bottom line was, we're having all these food fights and they're not helpful, right? It's just the echo chamber. So we wanted to have adult and rational debate, and what happened was the people who tended to like it saw a bell curve. So now I don't call it the devil, I call it the No Child Left Behind Act for security. Because there is, in fact, a distribution, right? You have the people who do nothing, and that's basically where PCI has been very helpful. The negligent. They would do absolutely no security for that card data, were they not forced and fined to do so. But then you have a lot of people that were doing security well before we could spell PCI, and they are not, they're nonplussed by this. They didn't get extra budget, they got distracted, right? So you have the negligent, the advanced, and a lot of people in the middle. And what we found is the people who were fanboys were really describing a different segment, the people who must be forced to do something. And the people who were upset with it killing innovation or redirecting budget were the people in the middle or on the higher end. Now Martin really enhanced this view because it's more like this. Martin?
I did?
Yeah.
Well, we've had the conversation many times, and I think Josh just kind of summed it up, that there really are two distinct groups of people, and as he said, there's the majority of the people that I see as a QSA that have a rudimentary security system, have rudimentary controls in place, but there's still things that would be considered basic and common sense that are not there. They just either haven't had the budget, they haven't had the time, for whatever reason. There's lots of controls in place that for years they've never had the time to put. And that's the people in the first hump there that really just have to have some sort of lever to get management to give them the money to actually secure the enterprise. And that's, even though I don't like everything about PCI, that's one of the best things I see about it, is it's an opportunity for people to use as a lever against management. On the other hand, if you really look at PCI, I'm the one person your managers fear more than hackers. Think about it. I'm the one who can come in and say, you know what? I don't think you're compliant here. Therefore, you're going to have to end up paying an extra ½ cent per transaction, or you're going to have to pay an extra % per transaction because you didn't mark the check boxes. It's not perfect, but it has done a lot of changes and made people get that money and get those resources.
Do you have any thoughts on this, Jamie?
Well, let's see. We've created a system that requires that you pay extra money in order to solve a problem that isn't your problem. Does anyone know what that's called in the law? Racketeering. There's a specific set of laws that are designed to prevent that.
Is that Canadian or U.S. law?
That's everybody's law. Here's the deal. You've got a situation in which a bunch of people with lots of money are making the suggestion that 100,000 merchants are going to do a better job at securing the credit card transactional system than the 3 credit card companies can do. Come again? It's an insane solution to a very, very simple problem. I want everybody in the room to spend just a few minutes thinking about what usury is. There's a legal definition for it. The legal definition for it does not include something that I think is very apropos these days. I want you to think about the spread between the overnight interest rate and what you pay on your credit card interest rate. The average in North America is over 20% for credit card interest. The average overnight rate is under 0.5%. When you follow the money, you can't find it. 20% interest, nearly 20% interest, is disappearing into covering the costs of the credit card transactional system, which was designed in the 50s, has yet to be significantly updated. There's a problem there. Why is it up to all of us to solve it? Jack, they're quiet. They might be thinking.
I don't have to think. I've got a checklist, and if I fill it out, it's solved. I'm going to hijack this for just a second, because this is a point that somebody that's not on this panel but has been involved in the conversation brought up about that thought and checklist, which is Andy Ellis, who some of you may know. He has a security job, CSO for Akamai. And he observed that a lot of us, at least those of us that are on the admin side that made it into the security world, something went wrong. We moved up the food chain from doing desktop support to being network or systems admins, or maybe if you're like me in small business, you were network and systems admin, and something went wrong, something got popped. You became involved in security, you became the security guy, you know the system nuts and bolts up, you got in that entry-level security position and moved up. That entry-level security position is now somebody that's out of community college with a 2-year accounting degree because they need to audit a checklist. So now where do we get those entry-level people? We've broken this path. And I don't know that that's universally true, but after thinking about it and talking to some other people, that's absolutely true.
We have questions.
I should have said at the beginning we're going to try to hold questions to the end, but while you're standing there, you have some.
Good morning. Thank you. You're assuming that the problem you describe is the problem that the card companies are trying to solve. And what they're really trying to do is shift the perception, the liability to the merchants, the acquirers, everybody else, because otherwise, if they take control of the system and there's a failure, people lose confidence in the card system itself. Now they can point to individual merchants, processors, whatever, and say, we have this great standard, and they failed to meet it, they were not compliant at the time of the breach, and so they're protecting themselves and their system.
Wait, so you mean a financial institution or a group of financial institutions made a conscious decision to transfer risk so that they can maximize their profits?
Isn't that amazing?
But the risk...
Apologies for interrupting. Carry on.
So did you just call PCI a faulty financial instrument? Is that the analogy?
Well, I did phrase
Is your network a toxic mortgage, sir? Okay, so because you pointed at me when you said that, I don't want to run the entire audience through the history of the credit card system and the number of times that they've done risk transferal down one level. When they began the process of creating the quid pro quo that turned the credit card into the instrument of world economics, and they are the de facto world currency.
Well, but let's be serious. Even that risk transference wasn't really the main reason behind PCI. That was kind of nice for them, but for the PCI council, for the credit card companies, at least in my opinion, it was really all about keeping the government out of their business. It's basically a way of saying, look, we're doing something. We're trying our best to make sure that this is secure and that your transactions are taken care of and kept secure. Look, Mr. President, stay away from us. We don't want to see you. We don't want to see Congress. Thanks, bye.
If I might, I was just going to say, we have a really scary situation. Dave Shackleford has been quiet for several minutes.
Yeah,
we need to resolve that.
That's absolute madness. But I mean, so let me I'll just call kind of the bullshit on the conversation. I mean, we can all clap and go, F the man, whatever, right? But yeah, woo! I'm talking about. But what's the debate? Are we going to change any of that? We can sit here and talk shit all day long. We're not going to change that. So the question is, do we need a better checklist? Or do we need better auditors? Do we need, some controls around how it gets done? I mean, I guess, the question is, you said it at the beginning, Jack. We're talking PCI today. How many of you have been dealing with compliance crap for a long time? Come on, all of you. right? Every one of you. I mean, I can literally remember when socks got created, and as a technical guy, you know, my stomach just churned because I'm like creating these mounds of